Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Third and 20 Dynasty Podcast. We have the full crew today. I'm JT, joined by Frank, Jake, and Lounis. I just got a text from my mom asking if I just ordered something off Amazon for the draft stream, which will be happening in a few weeks, which I did. I did order that off Amazon. So that kicks us off.
Like an Amazon endorsement.
Yeah, shout out Amazon. They're sponsoring this.
No, they're not. They're definitely not.
Jeff Bezos is just in my pockets. No, but we are only a couple weeks from the draft. But before that, I'm going to quick turn us right into the Odell signing with the Ravens. I don't think anyone really saw this coming. He was scheduled to meet with the Jets this Monday, but the Ravens didn't want him to leave the facilities. That's what the reports say. And they offered him allegedly $15 million guaranteed.
With $3 million incentives. I was going to say, yeah. I didn't see the contract coming. Never mind the team.
Yeah, so obviously a desperate plea move by the Ravens to try and get OBJ on their team. What are your guys' thoughts? Lamar staying with the Ravens, OBJ going to be good? He's washed. What do you think?
I guess it helps the chances of Lamar staying with the Ravens, which, I mean, it was already starting to seem that way, that, like, he was going to end up returning. I have no idea what his contract's going to end up looking like. I know, like, stuff went online about how, like, they FaceTimed immediately after and, like, they went out together immediately after. So I don't know if Lamar partially did some recruiting with that. And because then, like, some people were like, oh, would OBJ sign there if he knew Lamar wasn't going to stay? I was like, also, they offered him, like, $15 million. I don't think a lot of teams are going to offer him that much. So I guess it would say it helps. And then from there, my next question would be, do you think Odell or Bateman, when he's healthy, would be the number one receiver?
Well, dude, you want to know all this is? This is just the classic. The Ravens are, they bring in Odell, which is them posting their Instagram story or their Snapchat story, knowing that their recent ex is going to see it and be like, oh, look at me. Look at this offense we have here with Bateman, Odell, now Mark Andrews, like hoping that Lamar is like, oh, you know what? Maybe I got to go back. Maybe I'll rescind this trade request. That offense is looking pretty good. I think this is a classic play. And they lied to Odell, but Odell's getting paid so much that it does not fucking matter, right? Like, it just does not matter.
Yeah, I mean, they told Odell that Lamar would be the quarterback, and he expects Lamar to be the quarterback. But at the end of the day, I don't think I think the money was too big for him to say no, regardless of who's playing quarterback. I think Lounis could be playing quarterback, and he would have taken the $18 million.
Yeah, he can wipe his tears with those Benjis, all right? Like,
yeah, I think he'll be fine. But overall, I mean, I think when healthy, Odell's the more talented receiver, and if he is healthy, he will be the number one receiver on this team. Doesn't matter, he's a Raven, which means sell him. Very easy.
You're selling him. So what do you guys think the price tag is currently that you have to give up to get late second?
I was gonna say like mid-late, like 208 ish.
My next question will be: do you think I
wouldn't pay that either, but
it becomes official that Lamar's coming back? Like, I guess now people.
Let's assume Lamar is there. I think that's the betting favorite.
Yeah, it's the assumption. I'm not buying more into OBJ because this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's more like, is he injured or is he not? Like, that's just going to be what it comes down to, because like that knee, I think, got destroyed. Obviously, no one wanted to sign him going into the playoffs last year. Yeah. So it's just a question of, did it heal enough and is he fully back? And to me, I'm not going to want to bet on it at the price of like a 208 or 209, because with that draft pick, like if OBJ performs, he's not going to all of a sudden go up to a first round pick. But like if my 208 or 209, like it's a shiny new toy, like maybe he gets some camp hype or whatever, I could flip him for higher value. I think in terms of looking for veteran production, I think you could just get cheaper, similar production, even if OBJ is healthy on this Ravens offense.
Who you get it? I mean, like if OBJ is
for mid-second, I'd rather
you could get Adam Thielen for cheaper.
I'd rather,
but I don't think you're gonna get that production from Thielen.
Brandon
And a
Cooks
rookie.
and
Well,
Dallas.
what production? Brandon Cooks is a good one. What production
Brandon
are you
Cooks is
putting
good.
for OBJ? Because it's just like this Ravens
I don't
offense
know,
is
wide receiver 30.
At the end of the day, there's not a huge difference between wide receiver 30 and wide receiver like 56. Like it's like a point or two a game. So I'm not paying up for outside of wide receiver 2 production.
I suppose. I guess. I mean, the only scenario where it makes sense, like, obviously, would be a contender. I don't think I would give up a mid-second for him, but a late second, I wouldn't hate.
Okay, now what if the deal is like, more like a 210 or a 211? You could just get a slightly more favorable draft pick. Does that move the needle enough?
Not really. I just have way too many concerns about that knee, and it's not like the Ravens are known for keeping their players healthy.
Now, would you go ballsy? How about trading Odell for Rashad Penny?
Jake just had a freak out. Jake just had a freak out. Look, I would.
How does it? It's like Baker Mayfield with JT. How does he come into every episode? I swear.
I just want on the record you brought Baker.
It's because of me. I bring him up all the time.
Yeah, I would.
All right, I want to get into Bateman though. So, Bateman truthers, do you still value Bateman as a first round pick? Just late projected rando first.
No, you can't. But
you guys aren't the Bateman truthers that I was talking to.
Okay.
No.
What about if you're doing if you're doing a rando first for Bateman and a random third?
No, I would do.
You're piquing my interest a little more here.
I think it would have to be a first for a second swap.
Yeah,
that seems pretty cheap. On if that's the price for Bateman, like if I only have to do a first or second swap to get Bateman,
I'm not talking, the difference between 110 and 204. I'm talking, almost like a full round swap. I'm assuming.
Still, pretty cheap for Rashad Bateman. I'll think like I told everyone at the start of the season this year where I started to move off Bateman when I saw his route participation wasn't 100%, which you would expect from a starting wide receiver and one that was ranked in like the top 20. His target percentage was decently high, not difference making high, but he wasn't in playing every route. Now it could have been injury related, so maybe you can give him a pass. And if you're talking about the price of a first for second pick swap just to get Rashad Bateman, then yeah, I think I'd go in at that price.
Where do you guys value Bateman at then?
Like straight up, like one pick
overall in terms of...
Yeah, sure. Just give me a draft pick. You place him in the draft. Is he above or below Hyatt?
He's above Hyatt for me.
Below, slightly.
Okay, so he's in that early midish second. I don't know. I feel like Bateman should not have. I don't really want to buy Bateman. I've never really been a Bateman guy. I feel like this is an overreaction to a 1-year Odell signing.
He's currently 201 on the keep trade cut.
But that's probably 201 and going down though.
Yeah, he's dipping below 201.
I just think this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Like Bateman, like JT said, Bateman's production hasn't been great. His route participation hasn't been great. His, honestly, this Ravens team, you know how I feel about their passing game. Like they don't pass the ball enough to support that many offensive, receiving options. And Mark Andrews is the clear number one in there. And now you add throwing a guy like Odell that's going to demand targets. This is just not going to help his value at all. And if we're just playing the straight value game, do I think Bateman will be worth more or less this time next year? I'm going to say it's going to be less.
One thing
I was going to say, this is kind of like, because I feel if he has another disappointing season, his value is going to kind of like completely tank. I feel like now is kind of the do or die time where like you can still get a pretty good return for him.
This is true. I'll give you that. One thing I will say though, no more Greg Roman at OC, which we could see a very different Ravens offense than what we've seen in the past. I think one of the big complaints and the reason he was eventually canned was not because of the Ravens' lack of offensive success, but just his unwillingness to kind of use the players that they invested a lot in, which Exhibit A would probably be Rashad Bateman. You know, like, okay, they just didn't throw the ball enough with Lamar, even though they probably could have. I'm curious to see if that changes with that move. It's definitely putting the tinfoil speculation hat on.
Who'd they hire?
Does anyone remember off the top of their head?
This isn't
Nope.
the guy from the Chargers. Who did the Ravens hire? Ravens offensive coordinator. Nope, it's popping up. Greg Roman. You know that's not
Todd
Todd Monken.
The
University of Georgia OC.
Oh God. Yeah, another guy that runs the ball 500 times.
That reaction was hilarious because we were all thinking it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, they went from a guy that ran the ball 400 times and didn't pass the ball to another guy that runs the ball 400 times and doesn't pass the ball. Great.
Is this like the classic regift? It's just like, oh, you know, we got this Christmas gift a couple years ago, just don't like it, never touched it. Oh, regift strat, here you go.
It's like
where'd this come from?
It's like that Alex Jones meme. Remember how it's like him on one side and then 40 days later on the right, and it's like completely identical pictures.
Yeah.
No, it's the Office meme with Pam. It's the same picture.
Same picture.
What's the rules with YouTube on if we can play like clips and streams of other, like if I give you a Twitter clip of Todd Monken talking
I
about what
don't
he wants to
care.
do with the
Like
offense?
as long as it's
All
not
right. I'm
graphic
putting
or anything.
I would hope not. It's a press conference. I'm going to put it in the group chat what Monken was saying about.
Are you gonna make me figure out how to sign into Twitter on here?
No, sorry. In the doc.
Oh, here, yeah, put it in the doc.
Yeah. So it's in the doc now, so you should be able to pull it up. Because he talks about his philosophy with what he wants the offense to look like, and I think it's kind of contrary to what you guys were saying. I mean, maybe it's just some lip service, but
I mean,
listen,
have you seen
on
the
a
Georgia
serious
offense over the past 3 years?
Yeah, but I
had Stetson Bennett. Like, it's not like you had an elite quarterback.
On a serious note, using like completely buying into past offenses for what you think is going to happen, especially when the levels change, right, from college to NFL. It's kind of a bait, because I did this with Najee Harris, his rookie year, right? Like I went out, I looked at every single Matt Canada offense, fucking charted out how much the running backs got the ball and whatnot, and didn't fucking matter because Najee Harris had an outlier season with the amount of touches he got. So it's like, well, shit, what happened last night? All right, here's the clip. If you guys can't hear it in chat, I'm sorry.
And the focus on building an offense around the talent that you have. Not necessarily a one system type of an approach, that this is our system and we fit the players to the system, but a player-driven approach, that we're going to build a system around the players and around the personality of the team.
I think the game's changed. I think the game has become more of a space game, using all 53 1/3 yards and using the width and depth of the field, using space players and your skilled players. I think that's changed. Years ago, maybe it was inside zone and run duo downhill. Now it's utilizing athletic quarterbacks. The game has changed. The game has changed in terms of using their athleticism, using players' athleticism, is what they bring to the table. Because the game is about space. It's about being explosive. Well, how do you create explosives? Well, part of it is creating space. So that's probably the biggest thing, is how do you find a way to incorporate that into your offense. I think also being no huddle, some tempo, what that provides, that creates, because we were all no huddle. Players want to play in a game that spaces the field. I think when you go into an install meeting, all of your skill players want to say, where are my opportunities coming? Where am I going to get a chance to touch the football and showcase my ability? And I think the more you're able to do that and utilize that, because to me, balance isn't run pass. Balance is make them cover all 5 of your guys, make them defend the field, make them defend, the depth of the field. There's more spread. And the more spread you are and the more empty you are, it's more fun if your guy's athletic. He can get you out of trouble. Like, he can buy yards in the Super Bowl. I think Mahomes had 40 yards, even with a bad ankle, and the other quarterback had 70. Well, that's hidden yardage. That's auxiliary yardage.
So I will give you one thing. That does sound like he's going to spread the field out, right? He kind of explicitly said that. And kind of try to use Lamar, it sounds like, a lot more in the ad hoc running, where I feel like we'd seen with the Ravens last year, Lamar's, I'm in the pure drop back game, I escape the pocket and run down the field, really started to dwindle compared to most of his rushing production. Felt like it was from a lot of those designed runs. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I was not really complaining with Lamar's rushing production the past couple of seasons and in his overall production, but it's going to be interesting to see if maybe that we see some of those big runs that we saw more from earlier in his career, rather than this consistent up the middles, right? Like, and designed runs.
Yeah, I mean, if OBJ actually is OBJ and just not a washed version of his former self, like, that could be a very dangerous Ravens offense, where now you have to cover 2 solid wide receivers instead of just a Devin Duvernay streaking down the field kind of thing, on top of Mark Andrews out there and potentially spacing out J.K. Dobbins. You could have a lot more opportunity for Lamar in one-on-one situations where he's able to run and beat the guy to the corner and pick up a bunch of chunk yardage. There's optimism. I'm not like Jake selling all the Ravens. I'm just not personally buying Odell right now.
All right, let's get into
what Raven are you buying?
I was just talking about Rashad Bateman, if I could get him for that price you're saying.
Okay.
I still like J.K. Dobbins.
I get in on J.K. Dobbins, and I mean, I'm always trying to buy Lamar. We talked about him where he was in the startup draft earlier, last week's episode. I'm in on Lamar.
QB Tyler Huntley?
No, I'm all set.
No chance.
I think I'm a little bit more in on Odell given that price tag. I just don't know about the longevity, because I agree there probably are better buys if his price is that 207, 208. Nonetheless, he's still someone I'd probably be looking at. Yeah. Let's get into, we wanted to talk about late round startup strategies, picks, ideas, that sort of stuff. I don't know. Do you guys remember exactly where we picked up, where we left off last time with the startup?
We started to get more. It started to get more, I guess, convoluted. But I think the 5th round is where we cut it.
We got into this. No,
you're getting into the 6th
a little bit.
We didn't really talk about
like Treylon and Debo.
We didn't really talk about Pickens though, or.
I mean, listen, I can easily surmise the middle of the draft. Yeah. I am probably just going to be value buying tight end. And that's basically if one of the guys that I like just falls half a round. Other than that, I'm probably just plucking as many of these receivers as I can. Some context is needed, because I agree with Lounis. I kind of like Dobbins. I like Javonte. I mean, Swift's price seems a little weird, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get into a league where a lot of people fade him. He might be a dude that I'm interested in, and the rookies. But other than that, it's like, I think basically every single mid-round quarterback is overpriced.
Yep.
Yes.
I think a majority of the running backs are overpriced given the risk, just compared to the receivers. I think all the receivers going by these running backs, a majority of them are just better.
I like Dobbins in the 7th round. Other than
yeah, that one kind of did stick out to me.
Swift in the 6th is interesting.
I have no idea what
truther, but I'm not out on Swift.
You can't.
I don't necessarily dislike him, but will probably let someone.
I love the player, but like the
that's the thing, because I do think he's super talented.
Danger.
Then they just signed Montgomery, so I'm more so like, I'll just let someone else take him, and then just deal with whatever after.
I think that the community is getting a false sense of what DeAndre Swift is. DeAndre Swift was never going to be this I dominate a backfield type running back. I don't even want him to be an I dominate the backfield type running back. I mean, it'd be amazing, but it's not going to happen.
He's not even getting the touches you need him to get to be super relevant, though. That's the issue. And it's to combine that with his injury history, and he's just such an unreliable player that he makes him just so unvaluable. That's the issue here.
I just think his receiving workload is too good, and especially at the end of last year.
How many receptions does he get a game? What's he getting? 4 receptions a game? 5?
Still going 3 rounds ahead of Montgomery.
Like, to me, that's
yes.
Not
I agree with you. I do agree with you because I'm not really in love with DeAndre Swift, but I think compared to almost every other running back, and especially because of the fact that I think a lot of people would agree with you. So, in my opinion, players like Hollywood, Ayuk, Terry McLaurin, probably Dobbins, and then getting into players like Dotson, basically most of the draft picks that will be going consecutively, Deontay Johnson. Like I've just named like 6+ assets I think realistically go above DeAndre Swift.
I mean, so now I think absolutely take Deontay Johnson, who's going almost 2 rounds later.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you're sitting there 704, 705 and you see a Swift on the board still.
I mean, then sure, but like a full round later, like you're talking about missing out on guys like Dotson, Ridley, Hollywood, even like a Derek Carr. I'm like Derek Carr's nothing flashy, and he's not like one of these guys that's gonna make or break a team, but if you have Derek Carr as your QB3 at this point, like that's a very solid QB room you're talking about. So like,
I think that's a bait, dude. I think Derek Carr is the ultimate bait.
I mean, he's gonna be the starter for at least 2 years.
You think that until he sucks ass, and then it's like, shit, we're the Saints and we're looking for a QB again.
Well, he has enough guaranteed money in those first 2 years that he's gonna be the quarterback for 2 years.
I'll give you credit. It's going to be fucking annoying to get rid of him, but I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think my point may have been misconstrued. I was kind of trying to come at it from, I agree with you. Ayuk, Hollywood, Deontay, most of these other receivers, even Christian Kirk, I heavy considerations over Swift, but I think that's the consensus take. You take all those dudes and the draft picks out of the equation. Now I'm starting to like Swift, but given the board that we're looking at, smash receivers.
Absolutely. The receivers, even down to, the 10th, 11th round, 13th round, whatever it is. You're talking about Tyler Lockett in the 11th round, Elijah Moore in the 11th round, Wandale in the 12th, Jacoby Myers in the 12th. Like Michael Thomas, I know like Michael Thomas hasn't played in 2 years basically, but I don't know, him in the 13th just seems like a guy that could be interesting. I probably would stay away just because he's been so injured, but even down to like 18th round, Isaiah Hodgins, like there's so many receivers on the board that you could fill up your receiver room with late in the draft that I'm just loading up on as many quarterbacks early as possibly can.
Oh, see, I'm doing the opposite of that. I mean, I agree with you in the very beginning of the draft with the quarterbacks. I am honestly done with the whole like, I need to fill up my roster type of stuff. Because in the middle of the draft, I'm just going to load up on receivers, and if I need a fucking quarterback, I'll trade for one with all of my
right. But
receivers.
like, I don't know, like I've done it. I did it in, I think it's the second, 3rd, and 20 league, or one of the 3rd and 20 league, where last year I took 2 middle round quarterbacks, and it was Jared Goff and Daniel Jones. It definitely made my team much deeper to go. Obviously, I think I had Mahomes as my quarterback one. So like, obviously I didn't need that much production for my quarterback too, but like just to get two guys in the middle of the draft here that produced and I could trust to be my quarterback too any given week, filled out that quarterback room, and that I could put that aside and get the depth receivers later on. Because like, you were telling me I can get Mike Evans in round 10, he's gonna be, what, at worst wide receiver 15, wide receiver 18, worst. Like, what's Mike Evans gonna be in the next 2 years? I know he has no Brady and whatever, there's a big question mark, but the dude, all he's ever done is put up 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns like every year. So if you're telling me, I know the age is a factor, I know the quarterback play is a factor, and that's the reason why a lot of these guys drop lower in these drafts. But I'm going to fill that out, and then guess what? Next year when the rookie draft comes around, I'm going to take the best receiver on the board, and then that's where I get the age, the younger guys, a little injection of some youth into my receiver room there. But I'm totally fine if my wide receiver 1 ends up being, Mark Hollywood Brown, and then I pick up a Deontay, and then I pick up a Mike Evans. Like, that's a receiver room I'm fine with if my quarterback room is solid and I have one good running back. Just one good running back.
Hollywood is still my favorite buy receiver right now. Considering agent production,
agree with that price.
That low.
I just hate the 11th round though. looking at different rounds,
it gets kind of ugly. Yeah,
the 9th round looks pretty gross too. The 9th.
I think 10th. The 9th round, there's still guys that I kind of like. I think that round you can get good value on some veterans. Like, I think David Montgomery and Aaron Jones, where they are, is good value. And then you hope maybe someone like a Christian Kirk can slip into the 9th round. But I think in terms of the 11th round, like in terms of just some of these names, here's where I would just kind of be taking waivers on younger players that haven't had like that huge value boost yet. Like, I know they're listed in the 12th round here, but I'm looking at guys like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think that's someone I'll draft in the 11th. Or like, if we want to get towards the 12th, there's guys like Alec Pierce and Rondale Moore.
I mean, like Brandon Cooks in round 13 is just gonna be old reliable.
Oh, Brandon Cooks. Oh, I missed him. Yeah, Brandon Cooks at 13. I think he's being underrated in general. And going back to the Odell point, like if Odell and Brandon Cooks are the same price, I'm taking Odell. I mean, not Odell. I'm taking Brandon Cooks pretty easily. I expect him to be a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth paying that little bit more because I think he's going to be productive in Dallas.
I think there's some solid running back value here towards this part of the draft.
No, I think there still is some. Like you look at guys like Elijah Mitchell.
I think Antonio Gibson. Like, listen, I'm not the biggest Antonio Gibson fan in the world, but his price has been so beaten to death in a backfield where he's gonna see probably half the workload. You don't need at this price him to be a bell cow for this to really pan out. And
I still think he's the best.
Honestly, Kenny Gainwell in round 15.
Gainwell, yeah. The thing that was, even when we brought up Penny earlier, the thing that's making it so hard to judge with the Eagles running backs is
if they draft Bijan. Yeah.
Not even Bijan, or Jahmyr Gibbs at 30. Because they brought in both of those guys.
Yeah, Gibbs would make Kenny Gainwell basically obsolete.
Oh, I mean, yes.
It is the same thing.
Yeah.
Bijan, at least, you're like, okay, like,
he kind of
we have our 3 down back, but like maybe we could throw in Gainwell for some other reasons. Gibbs is kind of like you just drafted the guy, do the same thing.
I mean, you could take a bet right now on owning the Dolphins backfield / a rookie doesn't come in there and steal it, where 17th, 18th round, you just want to own a backfield.
Mostert and Jeff
17th
Wilson.
round, just take them back to back.
Yeah.
Has Kareem Hunt gotten signed yet?
No. You see, the report about Kareem Hunt is not good.
I would trade.
Physically? Or like, did something happen?
Yeah, no, it's just the Browns being like, he's clearly lost a step. Like, he's not the player he was. And if the Browns are not, like, they don't really want to bring him back unless he takes, like, vet minimum or like whatever it is.
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me because the Browns they're one of these teams that looks like that's going heavy analytics route. That's why Chubb was on the trade block earlier. I mean, yeah, you just gave him a fucking extension, I'm pretty sure. Like, no one's going to trade for a running back that you just gave the extension to. So, yeah, no shot they're bringing back Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
They're going to be the classic, we're going to draft a running back in the middle of the draft merchants. And I'm not saying I disagree with them, but that's just the way that they're going.
I'm surprised Jerick McKinnon is as low as he is.
I mean,
he's not on a team right now.
Yeah,
he's old.
I feel like you kind of just know that he's going to come back to Kansas City in a minute.
I'm just looking at the board, though.
He ended last season like
Jamal Williams, 1301.
I'm just looking at the board, though. I think I would trade any single player in the 11th round. Hot take JT out here. I think I would trade, other than maybe Khalil Herbert, I would trade any player in the 11th round for any of those running backs in the 14th round.
I don't disagree. Maybe
debate it.
No, sorry, I was just looking at it.
Is it the same?
Zeke is an interesting one.
I don't disagree with you. There's a clear, huge tier gap between round 10 and round 11.
There is.
Yeah.
And it's literally on the fucking pick. Like, aside from the draft picks that are all clearly undervalued.
Yeah.
I think that's actually really interesting to keep in mind with any trades. Like, whether you're trading back or moving up, like, kind of treating the end of round 10 as a cutoff in terms of you just know there's going to be a big value drop. Because, after that, like, it's what I said. I'd probably be taking waivers on some of these young guys. Like, I love Wan'Dale Robinson in the 12th. Sky Moore still there. Antonio Gibson. If you're kind of going for
how is Terrace Marshall still have 17th round value?
Eternal optimism, my guy.
See, one thing I'm curious about is because if I'm following the strat where I'm hammered receivers in the middle of the draft, trying to just scoop up as many as possible, what if in this 12th round, what about these tight ends or just the tight ends 12th round and beyond? Because, yeah, they're not the sexiest plays, but all these dudes are pretty young. So
I think one of them is just not like the other two.
Which one?
Who? Well, I don't know which one he's about to say.
I think Trey McBride is significantly better than Okonkwo and Knox.
I agree. I'd have him.
But nonetheless, like, you can get solid production potentially out of the following tight ends: Mike Gesicki, Isaiah Likely, Gerald Everett. Obviously, there's the really
Did Gesicki sign somewhere?
He's with the Patriots.
He's with the Patriots.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah,
there's the really. I think Cade Otton is pretty darn undervalued there at the middle of the 17th round for a rookie tight end. Just put up 500 yards. That's pretty good. You can go high risk with Woods or Ferguson.
I mean, honestly,
Isaiah Hurst still there, unless you guys are out on Isaiah Likely.
I'm out.
Oh, dude, you're taking the cock, Hayden Hurst.
I might.
That's such a tough
19th
nickname.
round.
I'm sorry. Listen, if the team that he's on, the Panthers, right? If they don't draft a highly valued or acquire a highly valued tight end in the next 2 years, I'll remove the title. But until then, wherever he goes, the Bengals are about to do it. They're about to bring in a nasty fucking tight end. You know it's going to happen. Like,
they already did. They already brought in a nasty tight end. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, get out of fucking town with your Irv Smith.
Irv Smith.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. If draft prop, ready? Draft prop number 1, 3rd and 20, coming right at you. The Bengals to pick whatever fucking tight end. Just go down the list of the top tight ends. Bengals. Like that, you got to get it halfway decent odds with that exact pick.
Do you guys still think that? Like, how many tight ends do you guys think is still going first round? There was a point like a month or two ago where people were thinking like it could be 3 or 4. But now I'm thinking like it's maybe 1.
See, what fucked with me is that Daniel Jeremiah, and I don't know if there were other people as well, were like, oh, Dalton Kincaid, top 10 pick coming at you. Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, well, this guy has watched way more film than me. So, like, what the fuck is going on? Now it's like, oh, he's back in the late first. But what the hell's happening? Like,
I feel like, I don't know if it's just with me. I feel like generally, like when you look at the top draft guys, like maybe there's like slightly different ordering on where guys go, but if you generally have a consensus of like a draft pick range of where you expect players to be picked, I feel like this year, especially for like skill players like receivers, tight ends, QBs, running backs, it's like a wider like gap and variation between a lot of the top draft guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's
or
not
like at least that it's changing so much week to week.
There's not like obviously there's running back. There's a clear top guy, but tight end and wide receiver. There have been 5 guys listed as the number one at their own position.
And then
so,
like I see like one mock where it's like 4 receivers in the first, and then like you see another one like, oh, JSN's going to be the only one in the first. And then
I mean, I've also seen news. I don't know. I don't really buy it that like NFL teams aren't as enamored by JSN as the media is, and like I don't know how much I buy it, but like it's just weird to me that like a guy that has so clearly dominated college football for the past 2.5 years and put up all the numbers you want to see at the combine and pro day and looks healthy and all this and that, and he's still just not getting any love from NFL teams. And then you get a guy like Jalen Hyatt and you go, he's fast. And everyone's like, oh, top 10 pick. It's just like the NFL really, I don't know where they're going. And I just think this year, there's, like you're saying, there's going to be a lot of surprises, especially on the offensive side of football.
Super unpredictable where a lot of these skill guys go.
So I just went through like 4 or 5 mock drafts while you guys were talking about that. And the max I've seen is 4 tight ends going in the first round, but most of them have 2, some have 3. And it's consistently Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid going in the first. And then sometimes Darnell Washington is sprinkled in there. And then this one, the 4th one, was Luke Musgrave.
Listen, I love Darnell Washington. I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick simply because I just don't think he checks that polish button that a lot of the other first-round picks have. And that's, to me, what separates him. Like, because I'm not sure that Meyer or Kincaid is a lock for first-round either. That's just what everyone has been mocking. But they just have that polish where it's like they can come in day one and produce at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not sure that I think that Washington to me would be like an early second type of player.
I agree. I'd probably do see him second. I think Kincaid is the one guy I'd understand going ahead of him, but I don't know.
I think there is something to be said, especially if you're picking in that late first, of taking a player that can immediately produce. And it's not like, oh, yeah, we're going to keep him hanging around for 3 years. Not saying that's what I would do in their shoes, but that is probably a factor that they're considering if you're a contender.
Well, especially with the difference between rookie contracts and the extensions. Like, you want those guys to produce early to maximize their value. So I get it, but I would rather Darnell Washington still than the likes of a Luke Musgrave.
So last point on like this 10th through 15th round, or I guess last points, if you guys want to bring up anything else. I just tend to lean, because once again, I think the receivers around here aren't horrible. It's definitely a tier down, but I do like a lot of the veteran receivers going around here. This is an area of the draft where you can be getting wide receiver 2 level production for astronomically cheap. You know, you take your Brandon Cooks, your Michael Thomas potentially, DJ Chark, Odell, Tyler Boyd, these non-sexy picks of players that have consistently shown that they can produce. I feel like this is a great way in your drafts, you land 1 or 2 of these dudes to just give your team a floor. And I think that these types of players are almost must drafts if you are taking those other win now players earlier in the draft, the players like the Aaron Joneses or Derrick Henrys of the world, right? Like you need to be scooping these motherfuckers up.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tyler Boyd. I just think he's a great depth wide receiver, round 16. Curtis Samuel, round 18, another good one. I even like Tim Patrick in round 21.
I was looking
to be honest.
Well, real quick, before we drop that far, do you want to drop that far now?
I was
No,
just
you
talking
could say
about,
what were
some
you
veteran
saying?
wide receivers that I see later in drafts that I think are, good values. And
Because
can
what
really
I was
build the
thinking of
depth.
talking about is because I think after the 15th round, at that point, you're just taking anyone that you think can be good, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, okay, we could just shoot some names out of players that we're going to say 16th round and beyond. They're just draftable price, right? Like you would just draft them in the 16th. So we could just start going through players, or like one of the couple rounds after. Let me make this thing bigger. Hold on. Get some more rounds in here. 14, 15, 16. Okay, here we go. I got a big group of players. All right, first one I'm interested in, for a couple names that I want to get the poll on.
Mm-hmm.
A, are you giving up on David Bell at that 21st round pick startup price? Is he too roster cloggy? Similar thing with Justin Ross, a guy that a lot of people picked up last year hoping he'd come around.
He's the one that he was the first one that popped off to me, where I'm in on Justin Ross simply because all those other receivers around him, I know what they are. Like, I know Greg Dortch isn't going to do much for me. I know Robert Woods is washed. I know Marquez Valdes-Scantling's washed. Mecole Hardman, I know what he is. So, like all these guys, I know what they are. I don't know what Justin Ross is. So I'm willing to take the gamble in the hopes that, like,
is he gonna
pop off.
Is he gonna play next season?
I don't know if it's been determined. I mean, he was automatically out for the season once they put him on the PUP last year. It looks like he's catching passes from Mahomes in Texas right now with Trey Lance down there too. So there's at least already some hype building up for Justin Ross.
I will say around here, once again, there are some pretty decent tight ends. I think, like, unironically, I think I'd take a shot on Taysom Hill.
I was gonna mention it also. I honestly think I would.
I'm not out on Albert O in the middle of the 22nd.
I was gonna say you'd rather Taysom Hill than Albert O and Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry, no, but Albert O, yeah.
I'm surprised Hunter Henry is that low.
Yeah, but are the stars going to align? Is Taysom Hill going to end up with Sean Payton and then, halfway through the season replace Russell Wilson as quarterback?
With the Saints, like, he gets a lot of like goal line touchdowns because before it's just Kamara, but you signed Jamal Williams, who's like quite literally, you could argue the best in the league at that right now.
Yeah. He's gonna be in Denver. Let's be honest.
Probably.
I think Hunter Henry is a fantastic pickup, especially if you're picking him up as your tight end 3.
Tight end 2 even.
I mean, they did just sign Gesicki. I don't know. The Patriots are weird.
I'm not concerned about it. I think
Hunter Henry is
a weird signing. Yeah.
One is around 15, one is around 22.
Yeah, I'd bet Hunter Henry outproduces Gesicki.
So someone that I would be potentially interesting in picking up is Hassan Haskins, simply because of all the other running backs around here, other than maybe Cordarrelle Patterson, I feel like he just has the highest level of, if the guy in front of him gets hurt, he's going to play value.
I know he's not your guy, but the guy right next to him, Jerome Ford, if what we're hearing about Kareem Hunt is true, if the Browns don't draft a running back, which, I mean, same thing with the Titans, like, you got to consider it. If the Browns don't draft it, he's the next guy up behind Nick Chubb.
Do either of you think about Gus Edwards, especially considering Dobbins' injury history?
Yeah, I would take it on Gus Edwards.
I think the Ravens draft a back.
That's
the problem. All of these teams can draft a back.
Yeah, I think all these teams draft a back.
Yeah,
I mean, like, at this point in the off season, like, we're talking about, second and third string running backs right now. Yeah, they can all be replaced.
Yeah,
that is just how the league works.
The fact of the matter is, though, as well, is that I think that compared to a lot of these receivers as well, even though the team drafts a running back, let's say they draft a guy in the 5th round, there's a very realistic chance that the veteran is the one who plays. which is not
Sure.
something that
No,
us
I
Dynasty people
agree.
like to admit.
But I also think you're going to see, depending on the money aspect, like some of these veterans get the cap casualty.
Well, especially right because
issue.
apparently the Titans are potentially interested in shopping Henry and just going complete vibe switch. Not completely surprising. It's just like I kind of like that Titans team. They were almost like the outlier team compared to everyone else.
I saw a ridiculous stat about the Titans. I think it was on Twitter. I forgot who it was. But the Titans this season, I think about 60% of their cap is Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. Two guys. 60% of their
Was that
cap.
before they just extended what's his face? Defensive tackle.
Yeah, that was before.
Yeah.
That was before that. So they're in a very awkward cap situation here where their quarterback is very mid and overpaid, and their running back is very good, but now injuries and age and overpaid. So they're going to have to make a couple tough roster decisions here, and I don't know where they're going to go with this. It seems like the reports are that they're done with Malik Willis. Seems like they're going to stick with Tannehill, but at this price, it's a very precarious cap situation, and I would expect them to just cut almost anybody else who makes any money, not named Henry, Tannehill, or Simmons, because they just can't pay anybody else. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I think they're one of those teams that's like sneaky close to just completely blowing it up. And
I think they.
Yeah,
I
they're
wouldn't
definitely
be shocked.
considering it.
Mhm.
I think the problem is that they just can't get much for any of their
Simmons.
assets.
You can get.
No, I mean they're paid too much.
No, I don't think you want to get rid of those
anything.
defensive players as a rebuilding team. It's just offensively you need to overhaul, right, and fit the modern NFL. That's what probably everyone thinks.
Yeah.
And like, who's giving the bag for Henry? Who's giving the bag for Tannehill? It's just not happening.
No.
You can't. What are you going to pay a running back $20 million? Good luck. Good luck.
And like, yeah, if you cut him, teams will pick him up, but you don't really want to cut him because they're good enough to play on your team. All right, let's just get into it. Lastly, any other? Oh, I'm gonna draft this dude at the end of my startup type guys. I think Deontay Hardy, I would probably try and draft. I'm not giving up on him.
I'm going to actually go with a guy on the Titans because I think he'll just be around, and that's Kyle Phillips. I just think he's a guy that's going to be there.
Yeah.
I know they signed Robert with not Robert. Who they signed? They signed somebody. No, they cut Robert Woods. Sorry. So they're going to have Treylon, Kyle Phillips. That's it. That's all they got. I mean, I expect them to add someone in the draft, but I just think he's a guy that's going to be playing the slot for them realistically.
I think for the bottom two rounds, like I don't hate guys like Kendrick Bourne and Sterling Shepard.
Shepard's just he's talking about being like the Udonis Haslem of the NFL, just there.
I know, but I mean, look at the guys that are like here in the bottom two rounds.
No, I agree. I think it is way too low, and he should be higher ADP. But like
maybe Colt McCoy if Kyler's gonna miss half the season.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, honestly, like Davis Mills, like you know, he's finished. Like, there's none of these quarterbacks that I'm really gonna touch. I mean, I was gonna
say, I feel like all things considered, that you might be able to get like Zach Wilson, Kyle Trask, Davis Mills, Jameis Winston. And even, I'm not sure about Matt Corral, but even an Andy Dalton, all just cheap for guys. Like these guys are going to play again, more likely than not, that they see snaps in the league again.
Yeah, but
I mean, like if you're talking about guys that you expect to see snaps, I mean, Mitch Trubisky maybe, Colt McCoy.
I think Brissett's just far better value than any of these players, but I also think that he goes way above this because he's a starter right now.
What's the threshold for see some snaps? Are we talking like a game or two? Are we talking half a season? Like,
where's Trubisky now again?
Well, you had, dude. So, I mean, listen, I just think they get in the game, but you have to remember with Zach Wilson, Davis Mills, even Jameis, if they come into a game and play well, that could be a huge value jump for not only Dynasty, but for teams, right? And like, oh shit, we might want to sign this guy to a bridge quarterback spot. And it's like, then all of a sudden they're back in the game. They have at least a shot. I mean, both Zach Wilson and Davis Mills, like, yeah, their stocks are incredibly down from where they were, but it's not like they haven't had at least some success at parts of their career. They've had good games. They've shown they can at least play. It's just with no consistency.
I think the problem with banking on those guys to be stopgap quarterbacks and bridge quarterbacks is you have the guys up closer to the top that I think are going to get replaced as more and more draft classes come in that are more likely to be those guys, like a Jared Goff, like a I'm not going to throw Kenny Pickett under the table yet.
Ryan Tannehill.
Ritter might not be, but Tannehill, yeah. Carr, yeah. Garoppolo, obviously. Geno, potentially. Like, these guys could get, in the next couple years, get replaced and have those stopgaps, which make the players like Zach Wilson, Jameis Winston, Kyle Trask obsolete.
Okay, I will say, looking at this, Zach Wilson is going too high. Like, Davis Mills, I'm willing to draft in the 22nd round. The most of the problem is that not even, because I still like Zach Wilson, I can't trade him. The other assets going around him, I can at least move for a third.
Yeah.
Like, I at least have a fucking prayer. Curtis Samuel, I could get a third for. Isaiah Hodgins, I've seen him traded a bunch of my leagues for a third. Tyquan Thornton comes out week 1, scores a touchdown, boom, I'm trading him for a third. Zach Wilson, you draft, you'd be lucky if you get someone's full fab for him.
I think the next big drop is coming when the Rodgers trade happens. I think the only reason he's even above the 20th, 21st round is because it hasn't happened yet. Even though the Jets GM is out here at like shows saying that it's like a lock that Rodgers is going to be a Jet.
I would love for him to not be. I think it would be so funny.
Great negotiation tactic.
So any other late round startup? Dude, I am targeting this guy.
Besides the guys that I said,
I mean, I think JT touched on it, and this is not really super late, but like a lot of the veteran running backs, because like I've said it before, but like the whole hero RB strategy where you have your one running back and you just fill in the next with matchup based running, veteran running backs. Like I'm looking at the Washington backfield with Brian Robinson in the 11th, Antonio Gibson in the 12th. I'm looking at Alexander Madison in the 13th with Dalvin Cook another year older, another injury away from being nothing. Even guys like Damian Harris, who's now in Buffalo, right? Kareem Hunt, I know he's not on a team, but I will still draft Kareem Hunt in the 15th round. Like, there's just so many, even like if you go to a Mostert or a Cordero Patterson, like these guys are going to score points. And like they're being drafted around guys that are more or less roster cloggers. I understand the age. I understand they're not long-term assets and you won't be able to really trade them for much. But it's something to put up points immediately out of a startup draft. And I think that just goes undervalued sometimes.
I agree with that. And especially like if you are like kind of what I've been reiterating and what you guys have been reiterating, drafting those receivers heavy early because they're just probably better bets than the running backs and quarterbacks and tight ends around them. Then you just come in here at the back half of the draft, stack those running backs in good situations that are underpriced. And then when you get to this back half, the more I'm looking at it, just stacking RB3s that are in the mix. I think they're probably just a better bet, even though these receivers like the Justin Rosses and the David Bells, like they may have a slightly higher percentage chance of hitting. They may have more upside and they have a better name value. Fact of the matter is that they're just going to clog my fucking roster, and them actually making it into my starting lineup, the chance is really slim. it's like a very fine line between, because I think it's always dependent. If I think like Rondale Moore or Curtis Samuel is probably a better example, is not to me a roster clogger. Michael Gallup, I don't believe is a roster clogger, but
no,
I like other people are going to think that they potentially are. Probably Gallup more than Curtis Samuel. So, yeah, if you think that receiver, that Tim Patrick legitimately has upside to play, I'm not going to fault you for picking him, but it's probably just error on the side of the non-name brand RB3 that can get in the mix. It's probably just more likely. All right. Let's get into some trades we're doing really quickly. So I wanted to go over, I got a couple offers. 2 tight end premium league. I got offered 101 for Kyle Pitts. Is that good enough?
Two tight end league, you got offered 101 for Pitts.
2 tight end premium. I gave up the house for Pitts too. I gave up a shit ton for him.
I think I'm keeping Pitts.
Dude, it's just so tough to trade him.
Yeah, but listen, if you can get, I think you might be able to squeeze this guy, especially in a 2 tight end league. If you're gonna say, okay, I'll take 101, I'll take Bijan, but I want more. Like, what's he gonna say? No, he clearly is ready to offer you the house. Just see how far you could push it.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't think straight up in a 2 tight end league the value's there for any running back. But I know Bijan's running back 1, but like
tight end field is.
Like if you knowing you probably have like 15 tight ends on that.
No,
team.
I have like no tight ends on this team.
Then you really can't trade Pitts.
It makes it much tougher, but I would see if you could squeeze him. But
I mean, he also offered me 101 and Trey Lance for Mahomes, but I think that's a relatively easy decline.
Yeah. I think the only way you can afford to trade Pitts is like if they're giving you back still a pretty good tight end and then plus some to make up the difference.
Yeah, I might be able to pick up a good tight end in the deal, like at cost, or I might be able to pick up an Njoku at a favorable, because the only problem, if you're interested in joining a 2 tight end league, this is not like it's great, tight ends are now accurately valued. It's like, this sucks. No one wants to give up their tight ends unless you pay a first for them. Like, it's annoying as shit. This is not fun.
No, I'd be so interested to see. Keep me posted on when the rookie draft for that is. I'm so interested to see like where some of the tight ends go in a rookie draft for that kind of league.
Right, and it's making it. I mean, I stacked a couple like 3rd round picks. I'm interested to see like what happens with those picks if rando tight ends start going around there, or if it's like people don't give a shit about other than the blue chip guys. I also got offered Darnell Mooney for 207. I know you guys are all going to say decline. What would it take to make that deal worth it? I get a late 3rd back?
Is this in the 2 tight end premium league?
Yeah.
In that league, I might say yes. Because a lot of those tight ends are going to go like...
Wait, are you giving up Mooney or getting Mooney?
I'm getting Mooney.
Oh no, then I'd keep 207 in the 2.
No, honestly, I might just do it. Because at the end of the day, I mean... DJ Moore is going to take all the attention on that team, and it's going to leave Mooney to not be schemed against, which is like the first time that he's not the number 1 passing option on this team.
I think I could get something on top of 207, though. I think I'm leaving a little meat on the bone.
Rob, because you got to realize in that kind of league format, like with how
you're not going to. The thing is, though, like none of the like in a traditional league, like that's the I'm going to take a tight end pick, but like. In a 2 tight end league, they're not going to be there.
So I don't know, dude. You look at, because then you're pushing potentially whoever like RB6 or 5 is, or one of those good receivers. Because there's only so many players, right? You got 4 quarterback. Let's say guaranteed 3. The top 3 tight ends go. So now we're at 7. 5 receivers. That's 12, and then 5 running backs. We're at 205. now we have Musgrave and then RB6 or wide receiver 6 or QB5 if Hendon Hooker goes in the first round. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't think he's gonna go first, but it seems like he will probably be a second round pick. So he was actually the name I was thinking of. Like I could see Tennessee drafting him in the second round.
How many receivers are there? Quinn Johnston, Addison, JSN, Downs, Flowers, Hyatt. So there's 6 already. So let's assume Hyatt goes in that group as well. So RB6 and Musgrave is then at 206.
Marvin Mims, I think, is there.
Oh, too. And Marvin Mims. I kind of like
Darnell Mooney.
Marvin Mims.
Yeah, give me the player over Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I'm gonna decline that. That's a pretty easy decline. All right, so what on top of 101 would it take for me to trade Kyle Pitts? Like, what if I got a mid-second? That worth? I just find it so
I kind of just like
because,
Kyle Pitts.
Like, I have Mahomes and Pitts. I just have my QB1 and TE1 spot, which it's almost like now super flex for fucking tight ends. Like, I just have it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, in a super flex, like, tight end, two tight end league, Kyle Pitts is pushing. He's in the first round for me, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, where in that first round he is. Like, I'd have him over. No, would I? I'm debating if I'd have him over Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Like, that's about where I have him.
He'd be in that tier with those guys.
Whereas Bijan would be like a little bit after.
The guy,
if Kyle Pitts is who I think he is, he's giving you such a difference-making ability over any of those players.
Dude, I want to trade him.
But he's not.
I don't want to go in at 101. I would want to trade back from 101 to pick up a QB.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, when you mentioned the 101 in the mid-second, like what you could get for 101.
I just don't want to have to deal with trading 101. That's going to be fucking annoying. I'd rather deal with trading Kyle Pitts. I feel like Kyle Pitts, I'd fetch a higher price than 101.
Probably, but it depends on what you get on top of 101 for Pitts also. So
yeah, I don't know. It's a really annoying scenario.
Oh, it's a horrible,
Because that league, see, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I've got some third round picks. Like, I don't know who the fuck to try and trade for a veteran type player. I feel like no one values third round picks but me, so I can't get anyone that's not completely fucking washed.
I'm Thielen.
See, I feel like Thielen is completely washed.
Oh, hater.
You want him in the home league? I'll give him to you right now. Give me a third.
I just don't have any spots for him. I actively have to cut players.
But all right, you guys got any trades you're thinking of doing?
The stuff that I'm looking at doing is kind of bargain buying, back end QBs. My issue though is like the price is still so high for a guy like Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins, or someone like that it just doesn't make it worth it. Because like everyone that has them is like, oh, the price is a late first, and I'm like, no, like I'm not giving you 110 for a 34-year-old Kirk Cousins. I'm not giving you 110 for a 32-year-old guy that just got cut by the Raiders. Like, not gonna happen. No. So
would you rather those guys or Will Levis?
Right, I'm gonna take Levis every time just because the upside on Levis is so much higher.
Yeah, same.
Oh, you two are
I'm not even a Levis guy.
Oh, like Levis is not a Levis guy, but wants Levis over those guys.
Yeah, so like it just makes it hard. But then you get into the realm of like, well, those guys, like, sure, I'll give you a player, but I'm not going to give you I'm not going to give up a Christian Watson for one of those guys. I'm not going to give up a who's another one of these young guys that people are polarizing young guys. I don't know, Michael Pittman had a bad year last year. Like, I'm not going to give up any of those guys for a back end QB2 or mid QB2. Like, it just makes it so hard to acquire these guys. I don't like Deontay Johnson. Like, am I going to give up Deontay for those guys? Don't really want to. But like,
I agree with you. I'd rather go the tier lower and give up the late second, early thirds. Or
I was gonna say, I think the move there is to pivot to like the lower tier of QBs where you can get like.
Yeah, but who is the lower tier?
Or the thing is,
beyond
though,
them?
The actual move is waiting for a QB to enter the market, and then going and paying the price it takes to get them. Listen, you're gonna have to give up your Watsons and whatnot, but
yeah, but
if
that's
you get
fine.
a good young quarterback, then
right. If I don't mind giving up those guys for the quarterback's actually valued there. It's just when people are like, oh, he's worth a late first, and then you go, okay, Christian Watson's worth a late first. I'm never gonna give you him for that guy. Like, so it just makes it tough to actually grab any of these back end QBs when. Like, sure, yeah. I mean, I would like. The problem is if you go a tier lower, right?
Oh,
who
easy.
Are you talking about?
You're talking about
Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I think he can easily score just as many points as Kirk Cousins or Jordan Love or whoever the fuck.
Yeah, no,
is
I mean, I don't mind that move, but like, what's the price on a Matt Stafford right now?
Sure as shit better be cheaper than those guys. I mean, listen,
it is.
It's still going to be a mid-second.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, you're going to have to give up something because it's starting quarterbacks in the league. There's only so many. And I'd just rather give up a mid-second for Stafford. I might even be able to get a little smidge on the back end than give up, because I agree with you. I don't want to give up my first for Derek Carr. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's a better buy than Derek Carr. What's the price of Jimmy G? Because
it's going to be
the same I really don't think that Jimmy G is going to have that much worse of a year than Derek Carr.
No, I don't
actually think that they're in the range of outcomes, right? If we look at Lounis's hair, which looks like the graph of range of outcomes, right? They could be all over the place. I think a lot of those end up with Jimmy G having a better year than Derek Carr.
I think that's true, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, that's the issue here is that since there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, these guys go at a premium and everyone knows it. But the problem is, like,
Are you sure about that, Parker? Because when you start looking at the draft board and someone offers your ass 206 for Matt Stafford, and you see the players on that draft board that are there, I think you're going to start heavily considering taking the 206. Because we just went through this exercise, especially like if you're the more that these tight ends are valued. I mean, you're potentially talking about a Jalen Hyatt.
If I had Stafford, I'm trading him for 206 right now. I just don't even know if he's going to be a starting quarterback the whole season.
Right. That's the issue with like giving up the 206. And I made a face when like I said it, but like giving up a mid-second for Stafford feels bad, especially when you're going to see the pick.
Well, that's why there's the
like you're giving up a guy that could potentially be, you know, the Darnell Washington pick at the end of the day. Like if I'm giving up a guy that I think could be a future tight end 1 for a 35-year-old noodle-armed quarterback, like what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it feels bad trading for any of those dudes, and the trade's going to look bad on paper. But once again, if you ask me, would I rather do that? Like, if I am looking to contend and buy the quarterback, I'm going to have to make a move where I get someone that I think can at least score points. I think that Matt Stafford, when you unwrap everything, you get a better Russell Wilson. Listen, I love Russell Wilson for so long, but he looked horrible last year to the point where I am really questioning what the fuck he's going to do next year. Like, I have no idea.
You can always even also like go a tier lower and like go someone like a Brissett. It depends, like if you're more so viewing the QB2 as like a short term or a long term thing. Jake, you're on mute.
Yeah, Jake, you're muted, but you could be patient too. You don't have to win the championship in the offseason. You could chill out.
I'm not trying to win the thing in the offseason. I'm just trying to build a roster that where I'm comfortable with my quarterback room, and I was just putting some feelers out and seeing what these lesser quarterbacks are going for, and to me it just struck a nerve where it's just like everyone's worth a late first, and that's the syndrome that happens. You see it all the time where it's just like, well, everyone's worth a late first. Well, at some point someone's not.
So you want to know what the real play is for you? You want to know what the real play is? You don't buy a quarterback, and for the beginning of the season, you just put whatever your highest scoring player or non-quarterback in your superflex spot. And then when teams get knocked out and go out of the running and start selling their assets for draft picks, that QB that was worth a late first all of a sudden starts getting dealt for with second round picks, right? Because they lose all the leverage. Right now, everyone's got a chance unless you're a clear tanker. And at the same time, the draft picks are, I don't know, you just hold the draft picks now. Hold the fucking draft picks.
I mean,
it's
the
not worth
other
trading for
option
any
is
of these
just,
fucking guys.
take a quarterback in the rookie draft, but it won't be. I don't.
Yeah, that's a high risk play. Like taking a rookie, a QB in the rookie draft because you have a need at QB is like, especially when we're talking second round picks.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, I mean, I was really talking if I'm going to take one in the draft, I would take one in the first. I mean, it probably would be just based on the teams I'm talking about, a later first round pick.
Right.
It would probably be like a 110, and we're looking at Levis or probably Levis realistically.
Yeah.
So,
see, to me though, like, do you honestly like Will Levis? Do you want to draft him at 110?
I don't mind him at 10. No, I would take him at 10,
especially if he gets the draft capital that people are expecting.
It's obviously pending draft capital, but assuming all the mocks are semi-accurate and he's at least a top 15 pick, I'm comfortable with him at 110 for sure. But I think he might drop out. I've been seeing him dropping now, and it's going to be weird because a team like the Colts, if the draft goes QB, I don't think they take Levis at 4. Maybe they trade back, but now you're playing a risky game. Like, what do the Titans do? The Titans take Levis?
I think Levis gets taken in the top 10. I don't agree with it, but I think he's there.
Same.
I think he goes.
There's no way you can find. Man was QB6 year before last. I mean, we could pull up the trades. I think that you're underrating 206. Where do I go to find the trades for a player? History pick, player, no, trades. Stafford, Gus Edwards, Chase Edmonds, Marvin Jones for Jared Goff. Stafford and his 24-second for Lance. These trades are weird. Stafford for Love straight up. That's
Stafford and a second for Lance, excuse me?
Is there
Free
just
Trey
like...
Lance. Trey Lance working out with Patrick Mahomes, the boost. Oh, Tyreek Hill said he's going to retire in a couple of years. I was talking about trading Tyreek Hill last week.
Oh yeah.
This is just Stafford for 23 seconds straight up. I don't know which pick it is. Stafford for 210 and 311. That was a week and a half ago. Stafford for Geno Smith and a 4th.
Stafford's available for 206. I wouldn't trade 206 for Stafford, but I trade him away for 206.
Maybe not every league, but generally speaking, somewhere around there. Because I agree with you. Like, I think the value play probably would be trading Stafford for 206, but then you're kind of left in a Jake scenario where you're sitting there and you're like, shit, I have a QB2 to play. All right. I'm down to end the episode here.
I got nothing else to add.
Oh, by the way, next week we're gonna be doing live mock draft. So if you guys are interested in mocking rookie mock, hit me up. We'll probably be mulling around in the beginning of next episode as well for if anyone wants a spot. But just trying to get some more variants from the mock drafts because we kind of know what all of the other people on the pod here generally want to take. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching.